Welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving into 6 new motorcycles that owners ended up regretting buying almost immediately. Number 6. Kawasaki Eliminator. The Kawasaki Eliminator seemed like the ideal mix of modern tech and classic cruiser appeal. But for a lot of buyers, the excitement wore off quicker than the bike's 0 to 60. At first glance, the price felt like a bargain. At just around $6,000, it looked like an affordable cruiser, until reality hit. By the time you added must-haves like ABS or even a windscreen, the cost climbed dangerously close to more powerful and better-equipped bikes. Suddenly, that budget label didn't feel like such a deal. 451cc parallel twin might do fine for quick city hops, but on the highway? That's where it starts falling apart. Twist the throttle and you're often greeted with disappointment as minivans and SUVs breeze past effortlessly. Riders planning long-distance journeys found out the hard way this wasn't the bike for endless open road. After an hour, the numbness kicks in and you start reevaluating your choices. Let's not skip over the fuel tank either. A cruiser with just 3.4 gallons means you'll be making pit stops like it's part of the ride plan, not exactly ideal for touring. But regret hit hardest when owners tried to sell it. The used market didn't exactly welcome lightly used Eliminators with open arms, and trading one in often felt like giving away your paycheck for pennies. In the end, the Eliminator wasn't a terrible bike. Just not the dream ride many imagined. It looked sharp in photos, sure, but for quite a few owners, the honeymoon ended fast when reality set in. Number 5. BMW R18. The BMW R18 is a contradiction on wheels, an engineering marvel that somehow manages to leave owners scratching their heads in frustration. Visually, it's stunning, a retro cruiser bathed in chrome that screams vintage soul with modern dependability. But once the new bike buzz wears off, buyer's remorse starts creeping in. Let's talk size. This beast tips the scales at 761 pounds. Pure intimidation on 2 wheels. Trying to handle it at low speeds? Good luck. Many owners found they'd basically purchased a freight train with all the agility of a fridge. Then there's that huge 1802cc boxer engine. Sure, it looks the part, but at idle, it vibrates enough to keep chiropractors in business. Comfort doesn't help either. The seat could pass for a wooden plank, and that stretched riding position, a guaranteed recipe for lower back pain. Add in a stiff suspension setup, and every road imperfection feels like a direct assault on your spine. Now the price. The base model starts near $11,500, and that's before adding basic touring features. Want bags? A windshield? Cruise control? Open that wallet wider. Before you know it, you're staring down a $20,000 price tag for a bike missing key essentials. And resale? Prepare for a gut punch. Depreciation doesn't go easy on the R18. Ultimately, the BMW R18 is like a vintage muscle car. Gorgeous to admire, difficult to live with. If you enjoy sweating just pushing your bike out of the garage, congrats. You've found your match. Number 4. Indian FTR. The Indian FTR looked like the ultimate blend of flat track style and urban performance, but for many, looks turned out to be deceiving. Owners quickly realized that while it appeared fast and fierce, the ride was far from ideal. The stock suspension felt like it belonged on a completely different bike, and every pothole became a sneak attack on your spine. Range? Just about 100 miles per tank. That's not commuting. That's planning your day around gas stops. Now let's talk cost. Dropping around $11,400 on a new FTR doesn't sound terrible until you consider the required upgrades. Rough fueling, oversized tires, awkward throttle mapping, the list adds up fast. Before you know it, you're spending a few more grand on tuning, new tires, maybe even a suspension revamp. Why stop at one financial regret, right? If you ride, in hot climates, there's another surprise. The FTR has serious heat issues. Your right leg ends up medium well done every time you hit a red light. Even at highway speeds, it's like sitting in a rolling sauna. And weight, over 500 pounds. Instead of flicking through corners, the FTR fights them. Resale doesn't help either. Depreciation hits the moment it leaves the lot, leaving owners wondering if a used Ducati might have been the smarter call. In the end, the FTR is a heartbreaker. It's got attitude, sound, and style, but living with it feels like ignoring all the red flags in a relationship. Number 3. Harley-Davidson Nightster. On paper, the Harley-Davidson Nightster seemed like a dream. Modern, sleek, and wearing that legendary Harley badge. But for many buyers, the dream turned into a pricey regret. Let's begin with the price tag, around $11,200. For that money, you'd expect premium features, right? Nope. No high-tech bells and whistles, no rear seat, and just barely enough fuel range to avoid range anxiety. The Revolution Max 975T engine does deliver punch, but it lacks that iconic Harley rumble. Instead of a deep growl, you get a more refined tone. Great for efficiency, not so much for character. Comfort? Not a strong point. The seat feels like a wooden stool after an hour, and those mid-mounted controls make long rides. A challenge in endurance, especially for your knees. Don't forget about heat. The rear cylinder sits awkwardly close to your thigh, turning summer rides into a test of heat resistance. Top it off with a heavy clutch, a very basic digital display, and some cheap-feeling plastic parts, and suddenly, that $12,200 feels tough to justify. Plenty of Nightster owners soon realized they could have spent a bit more for a better ride, or a bit less for something equally fun. The Nightster isn't a terrible bike, but for its price, let's just say a lot of folks are eyeing resale listings a little too quick. Number 2. Moto Guzzi Stelvio. At first glance, the Moto Guzzi Stelvio looked like the perfect adventure tourer, classic Italian style with all the right ingredients. But that initial charm wore off fast for many new owners. The price hovered around $10,000, and for that, buyers expected a polished and premium machine. What they got instead were switchgears that felt cheaper than a dollar store toy and a dash. Display that wouldn't feel out of place on a 2008 GPS. The weight? This thing is a 600-pound beast. Sure, it's stable on the highway, but the moment you veer off onto gravel, it handles more like a fridge on wheels. Then there's the shaft drive, which should have been a win. No chains, less maintenance. But somehow Moto Guzzi made it feel clunky, like the bike's always laboring just to move. And that 115-horsepower V-twin? While it sounds great, performance doesn't always back it up. Twist the throttle and you often get more bark than bite. Electronics don't help either. Ride modes and traction settings feel like they were developed by someone who's never ridden before. All said and done, a lot of owners came to realize that for the same cash, they could have picked a faster, lighter, and more straightforward machine. The Stelvio isn't a disaster, but it's proof that a pretty face can sometimes blind you to serious. Number 1. Indian Chief Bobber. The Indian Chief Bobber screams Americana, big, bold, and built to turn heads. But for some buyers, the fantasy faded fast. Let's start with the price. Nearly $11,700 before taxes, fees, or that must-have matte black finish. That's not exactly what you'd call budget cruising. Once you roll it off the lot, reality sets in. This bike is heavy, 685 pounds of it. Parking feels like wrestling a small livestock animal and low-speed maneuvers. Yeah, good luck. Comfort is another story. The solo seat may look great, but after an hour, it'll have your spine begging for mercy. Those forward controls stretch you out like you're in a yoga class going 60 mph. Add stiff suspension, and every pothole feels like an uppercut to the tailbone. Performance? The 111 Thunderstroke sounds the part and has decent torque, but it doesn't always back it up. With a